Hello there, my next guest is Erriel Vaughn. She is a wellness advocate for Black women and BIPOC families. She uses her platform to share tips, tools, and resources for personal development through Christian principles.
We do have some doubts, but ultimately, if we made up our mind, we're going to persevere those doubts.
Tune in to my conversation with Erriel about building sisterhood and community. Feel Your Feelings podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Macanjuola, and I have a guest on today's podcast. Her name is Erriel Vaughn. She's a wellness advocate, and I'm super excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Erriel. How are you feeling today?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm feeling pretty good today, so I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
So am I. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I get super excited when people express interest in wanting to be on my podcast. So I'm so used to being the person like chasing down people, like, please be on my podcast, or like having people be like, hey, I would love to be on here. Really means a lot to me. So thank you so much. So tell us a little bit more about you. Like, who is Erriel, and what are some things that you've been up to lately?
I would say that I am definitely a work in progress. I'm someone who likes learning, especially about wellness and ways to improve and better myself and my well-being. So whenever I learn something, I try to spread that information out to my friends, family, and of course do content creation as well. And then when new things come up, I try to like update information. But for me, that's like the core of who I am. It's just like I like learning and I like providing people with information so they can have an understanding and be more educated in different ways about how they can better themselves as well. So I'm all for allowing people to know what they're consenting to. I feel like we're in a system where a lot of people are uneducated about how things work and how things affect us, especially our health. And so I'd rather them have the information and they could do with it as they please, but at least I did my part by sharing that information with them. So that's the biggest part of me, is just like making sure my people are taken care of.
Anyways, so I was saying that you have a personal brand called Your Future Muse, and I love the premise behind it. I was on your website reading that the version of us now is the person or the version that our younger selves would have aspired to be like.
Exactly.
And can you, so your brand, Your Future Muse, is where you ties their mental health through accessible resources and understanding their purpose. Can you tell us more about it and what made you start it?
So what made me start it was I've always gone by Your Future Muse, like online. Um, and just that's what I used to just call myself. It was just, I don't know how I came up with it. It was just something I came up with in junior high. And so that name just stuck with me. And I was like, I want to do something with this, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And of course, like the rest of us in 2020,
Yeah.
um, we were all struggling with our mental health and our physical health and spiritual health, with all of the changes that were happening and all things that were like out of our control. And so that during that year, I became unemployed and I struggled even more in my mental health because like I didn't have access to a lot of things. I was seeking therapy, but I was having struggles finding a therapist. And I've always been very introspective. So I always enjoyed journaling. I always enjoyed just learning about myself and reflecting and like trying to find tools to help me better understand myself. And so I was like, I should do something with what I know and then also research other tools and resources that I can add to what I know, and give it to people. So that's how I started creating my journals in 2020, during the pandemic. And that what encouraged me to do it was, one, I was struggling myself and I knew others were struggling too during that time. And so I want to offer some type of tool book, I guess you can say, because my journals, they're guided journals, but they're also filled with activities about self-discovery, and finding your purpose and like defining and refining yourself. So I was like, this is something I enjoy doing. I'm sure there's others who enjoy doing this, but may not, have the enthusiasm I have to like look into different ways or like things like that. So that's what made me create it, was like I personally needed it for myself, and I knew others at that time also needed it. Um, and that's how it all began. And from that, I had a few online support groups during that time for women of color. Some of them were faith based, some of them were just general check ins. A lot of it had to do around wellness, whether that was our financial wellness to our physical wellness, to just making sure we have some type of sisterhood and have that accountability and that support during that time. And so a lot more has branched from it, but the core of it is just make sure that I have like accessible resources for people who come across my website. And I'm still building upon it. I'm trying to network and be connected to more mental health specialists, and so I can add resources to my website as well.
Definitely relatable. So health and wellness brands need inclusive culture. How can you say if a brand is genuinely interested in inclusivity? Do they have to have a diverse team themselves?
I believe so, absolutely. I I always question brands and organizations that say they're for inclusion and diversity, but look at their board members and their executive teams and they don't look anything like their consumers and are the people that they're claiming that they want to serve and provide services to. And so there's no way that you are being inclusive if you're not bringing these people to the table and understanding what their needs are. Um, a lot of times these corporations are looking at numbers. They're like, oh, this is trending right now. These group of people are trending right now. So we're going to put them in our billboards. We're going to put them in our ads. We're going to make sure that we pick these influencers and these content creators to push our brand and push our products because we know that Black women are the highest consuming population in the U.S. of beauty products and hygiene products. So let's put Black women in the forefront so they can buy these products that we're trying to push at the moment. They do the same thing with LGBTQ communities, especially because it's the month of Pride, right? So you see all these companies having their flags up and having these Pride phrases and things like that, but the rest of the year they're quiet, right? And I'm glad that we do have months and weeks and days to celebrate our different individualities and like identities. But it's just like, what are you doing for us the 365 days of the year, not just
Yeah.
when our name is brought up for this holiday or whatever the case, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting that we're talking on Juneteenth. Today is Juneteenth, and we're seeing a lot of visibility around Black culture, Black people online and in commercials and in the news, which I think is fabulous and it's great.
Yes.
But after today, it kind of goes back to the regular flow of things. And it's just like, let's keep up that same energy, please, not just for, a single
Yeah.
moment that you profit off of, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
that's definitely how they see it. Like, I know in the past few years, now that it's become like a national holiday, it's just like, oh, let's
Mhm.
put this Juneteenth ice cream out. Let's put this
I
Juneteenth
know. I was
decorations and like all this.
literally thinking about that. Yeah. The red velvet ice cream.
So ridiculous. Right? Like, this
Yeah.
is not what
With
we need. But if you have someone at the table to tell you, like, this is what Black people would appreciate, to show us visible in this way and on our holiday, our Independence Day, then they wouldn't do that, right? They would have someone there be like, no, ice cream's not going to cut it, or like, no, that's a little bit insensitive. You know what I mean? Like, if they
yeah,
had someone in the room with them, I don't think it would have got approved and even got to the shelves to begin with.
totally. Like it can come off performative sometimes, and I think we have to be careful as Black women and as young consumers, as young Black women, to really monitor what we're consuming, like beauty brands or you know, media or even certain influencers and like what they actually stand for. And it's easier said than done until you like do your homework on it and be like, maybe that's not like for me. And only you can decide, or only that person can decide what brand or what inclusive, what brand it is that they want that aligns with their values. Because there's a lot of information out there. So, have any favorite films or songs that represent sisterhood well to you?
So my favorite TV show is Living Single, and I
Oh,
really
okay.
love the sisterhood
I
between
used to watch
their
that. Yeah.
friendship that's on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up watching that show, like I always was like, oh, I really want like a friendship like theirs. Like you can keep it real with each
Yeah.
other, you can support each other, you can, laugh at each other and still love each other and like grow together and have this community of friends. So that's one show I would say like yes, like that's what I look for in sisterhood. Um, just be all of us being very different and unique, but knowing that we're going to be there for each other and we're going to be connected and have that love for each other.
For sure. And I've been watching Sister Sister lately. Me and my me and my sister have been like catching up on like reruns on Netflix since they're on Netflix now, and just like seeing their dynamic as sisters and their bond, even though they're twins, right? But seeing their dynamic is like really inspiring, and it's like a timeless theme. Even though that show was like made in the '90s or created in like '90s, early 2000s, like the themes still ring true on like having a sister and having female friends.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I'm watching Sister Sister right now too. It's been like my comfort show this
Which
past like few
season?
weeks.
Which season are you on?
I'm finally on season. What season am I on? I'm just on. I just watched the episode yesterday of when Tia got the job at the coffee shop.
Oh, we're close
So
then.
they
I'm on
were
season
like,
5 too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so that
so what are the most important do's and don'ts when it comes to female friendships?
I would say the most important dues is knowing your friends. I guess preferences, right? I feel like a lot of people struggle with
Right.
adult friendships because they're like, oh, well, this is how I communicate and how I like to communicate, but they don't really consider the other person's preference or how they navigate communication.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully for me and my friends, like, we have an understanding of like, we don't have to talk every day, or we can communicate
Yeah.
via text and be fine, or, like, we need to see each other at least once a month. Just having that understanding that we're adults and we're all having our own paths that we're on, that we're dealing with different things, we're trying to navigate different things. We have goals that we're trying to reach, and sometimes we just may not have the capacity to socialize as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so not having those expectations of like I'm gonna see my friend every single day or every single week like it was in college. That's a big conversation amongst my friends as well. It's just like, oh, like we don't have a set time we're gonna see each other anymore now that we're out of college. And I think a lot of people have a hard time
Yeah.
transitioning from that. They're like, I knew I saw you every Tuesday and Thursday because we're on campus every Tuesday and Thursday. So I had something to look forward to, seeing you and hanging out
Mm-hmm.
and socializing. And just like, okay, but now I only see you every fourth Thursday. And so balancing the transition of like, okay, life is happening to all of us at one time. And just having that understanding between communication and also getting together. So don't put your standards and expectations on the other person around those things. Have an adult conversation and find a rhythm that works for the both of you in your relationship. So that's a don't. Just
That's good.
don't assume, don't put expectations, don't put these high standards around those communication and socializing. I would
Those are,
say a do is I would
but
say
yeah,
a
those are
do
good.
is to always be there. Always be there for the big moments, so the milestones and the low moments, right?
Yeah.
I think having friendships, especially in adulthood, um, it comes with the punches of life, right? We all go through something, whether we experience a death, right, in our family, our friends groups, or we lost our jobs, or for myself, I'm going through a divorce, and I had a really solid friend group around me checking in on me, making sure I was taking care of myself, make sure I was eating. I'm the one who skips meals in my friend group. So just
Oh
things
wow.
like that. Just making
Yeah.
sure that you're there for those important moments. Some people may think, oh, we're best friends or we're close friends because they're there all the time. That doesn't mean much in adulthood. Like, no one's gonna be able to be with you 24/7. Like I said, we all have our own lives and paths that we're living through each day. And so, but just making sure you're there for the big times. I have friends who I haven't seen since maybe like 2012, and I will still consider them my closest friends because we make sure we stay in contact, whether it's us hitting each other up twice a year and just say, hey girl, happy birthday, love you, Merry
Hmm.
Christmas, whatever, or just hitting each other up and saying like, hey, are you good, what's new. I have many of friends from high school still that like I don't see or talk to them every day, but they know if something's happening, they want me to be a part of it. I want them to be part of what's going on with me as well. So I would say a do is just being there for the most major moments, right? Those milestones, those large transitions that people go through in life. And that's more important than being able to gossip on the phone every day or being able to get a coffee together just to complain about work every day, you know?
Yeah. That's really cool. And going back to the sisterhood thing, like I have a sister, I have one sister, but I feel like sisterhood is like a community of more than one other female friend. Like maybe three or more people that you can like actually sit down with and talk to in person and have a conversation with face to face, whether that's at your church or at the mall or at a patio at a restaurant or somewhere. Like, where you can actually communicate with them is super important because, like you said, in college we had those established spaces where we can connect, and then afterwards like you lose touch and it's like you don't really, you, when it's like out of sight out of mind, kind of, you don't see someone, it's like you just kind of, they kind of fade out. So establishing that real in-person genuine connection is super important. So in a word, I would say sisterhood is like community, like real life community.
Yeah, it's definitely community. And understanding that people in your community are great, can be great to fulfill certain needs of your own. So you having those
Yeah.
friends where you know you can call them and have those one-on-one in-person conversations over brunch or coffee or whatever. But then understanding you have a friend who you want to go play tennis with, or you have a friend who like
Yeah.
you guys hold each other accountable financially, or you have a friend that you're really grounding your faith with, that you can pray with and study the word with and praise and worship God with. Like I've I feel like as adults we also put like a whole holistic thing on our friends, I guess, in a sense. Like yes, they should be there. We should be able to trust them. We should be able to rely on them. But I think understanding that all of your friends are not going to have all the same interests or backgrounds as you,
True.
but finding that one or two things to connect with them with, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding like, okay, this is my capacity with our friendship in a sense of like, you're someone I call to go check out a new museum with because we're both into art and galleries or whatever the case, and not. I think understanding the role that each friend plays basically is what I'm trying to say. Instead of
Yeah.
pouring all your needs into one friend
Lumping
and then
everyone. Yeah.
trying to expect
That
them to
makes
have the
sense.
full capacity to fulfill all those needs.
Yeah, that is super important too. So we're not all the same. Like, let's be honest, we all have different interests. Like, one friend may not want to go out to eat, or someone may rather just talk to you over Zoom because not everything requires in person. So, those are just like, those are like the real, the nitty gritty type stuff that requires more nuance with each person, and like actually asking them, like, hey, like, does this work for you? If it doesn't, like, I'm not gonna be mad. So yeah, like we
Yeah,
made this
exactly.
episode happen over several times. Like it just, the timing didn't align, but like we still reached out to each other and we're like, hey, like I'm gonna reschedule it, but I'm good. We're cool. So thank you so much, Erriel, for joining me on today's episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time. Is there a place where listeners can find you? Where can they support you actually? Because I know you have your own store and shop and everything.
Yes, as always, check out my website, yourfuturemuse.com. And you can follow me at Arioki on Instagram and TikTok. And that's spelled Eareoke, like
Yeah,
karaoke.
like
It's
karaoke.
Arioki. So both on Instagram, yeah, Instagram and TikTok. I do have a YouTube channel, but it's a baby,
No, I no. Check out her
in
YouTube
my
channel,
opinion.
guys.
So
Like
if you want to check out my YouTube channel,
I listen to your videos, like your word of the year for 2023 is so right. Like I also do the word of the year as well. So that was really like cool to see that connection.
nice. I love having a word of the year and a mascot of the year.
Ooh.
So last year my mascot was butterflies, and this year my mascot are wildflowers. And
Oh,
so,
that's good.
you know,
That's
I'm
good.
all for it.
That's good. I didn't think of having a mascot of the year. Hmm. But I do have a word of the year. My word of the this year of 2023 is patience.
Patience.
Yep. Yeah,
Yes.
and like obviously it's working because it's
Yes.
Riverside thing, like just this recording and like the lag through it. I'm patient through it, I'm patient. I'm patient. So yeah,
Patience is a great fruit of the spirit,
it
okay?
is. It is.
We need it every day, every second.
We do, and literally it has helped. It truly has. And I come up with a word at the beginning of the year, like before January or like on January 1st. But this time, I didn't. I didn't know what I wanted it to be. Last year it was shift, but this year I kind of was like, oh, it's kind of corny to have one word for the whole year. And I was listening to like Evan Carmichael. He's a motivational speaker, and he has a book called Your One Word. Like his one word is like believe, and I think I was like listening to something he was saying where it's like your one word can it doesn't have to be every year. It can just be like your word that you just have through all the years. But I kind of want to go back to having a word for each year because it kind of is like the umbrella for like everything that you walk through throughout your year and that you can trace back to. And when you see it pop up, you're like, oh, that's my word. That's my word. Instead of having like different
Yeah.
words and
Yeah.
signals, it's like you have that one thing that's like, oh, when you hear it, it's like that's for me. That's for me.
Yeah. That's a cool book. Well, who was the author again?
Evan Carmichael, he's a great motivational speaker on YouTube. He has videos called Um, so like he'll take a celebrity and he'll create like a top 10 list, so like Oprah Winfrey, and he'll create like a top 10 rules of success video based off of that person and the things that they've said. So he's a great creator and love his mind. Yeah.
Oh, like you said, we were looking forward to this conversation. We finally got to have it, and I'm
Yes.
glad to come on again and have conversations with you. I'm so glad I met you. I
Thank
think
you.
you're
Me
a
too.
wonderful person. I think you're doing wonderful things, and I'm so excited to witness you grow and do all the things that bring you joy. And I'm really excited to keep up with everything you have going on.
I can see you again. Yay! Thank you so much, Erie. Thank you. We'll keep in touch. So have a good one, girl.
Yes.
Bye.